here I have with me Demetriss DeShazior.
Or Demi for short.
Okay, or Demi for short. Demi is the founder and advocate of Pearls of Wisdom. How are you?
How are you,
I'm great.
Ms.Dria? Thank you so much for inviting me to the show.
You're welcome.
Ecstatic.
I'm honored to have you.
Thank you.
Now, where are you from?
I'm a native Floridian.
Okay.
Born and raised in Miami, Florida.
Okay. So what exactly is Pearls of Wisdom?
Pearls of Wisdom, a.k.a. POW, is a nonprofit organization for battered women and survivors of domestic violence.
Wow. So what inspired you to start this?
Well, actually, I've experienced domestic violence myself in my early 20s.
Okay.
I had to be about 21 years old or so. And at the time, I didn't know that I was experiencing domestic violence. I had seen domestic violence in my childhood with my mom. And I kind of like got involved in it, I guess, indirectly. So I experienced it, and it wasn't until I was unemployed at the time, and God gave me kind of sort of a vision. Because I told him, I said, Lord, I need a job. And he was like, well, I'm going to give you something a little bit better than a job. I'm going to give you a vision. And so I'm like, okay. And he's like, I want you to help down at the shelter where you used to live, which is Safe Space Battered Women's Shelter. Okay. So I'm like, okay, I need money because that's not a job. And, so I went into the shelter where I used to live. And I was like, oh, my God, it's the same. Everything is the same here. The bunk beds, everything. And when I looked at the women, I was like, oh my God, I had such a passion for them. And so I said, I need to start my own nonprofit organization. I need to give a message and let them know that, if you're going through this right now, but you don't have to stay in it, Yeah. So that's how it kind of birthed out of my misery message, and now it turned into quote unquote a ministry.
Okay. So exactly how long were you in that relationship?
I was in the relationship for 5 years. It started with a little bit of verbal abuse every now and then, and it turned quickly into physical abuse.
Oh wow.
Pushing, punching, and a lot of times when you go through domestic violence, you're thinking, okay, maybe it's something that I'm doing. Yeah. Maybe it's something that I said. But, as you grow older and you gain wisdom, pearls of wisdom, you know that no matter what you say, how you say it, no one should put their hands on you.
Yeah.
So I was in it for about five years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So did you choose to step out of it yourself, or were other people even aware that you were dealing with this?
At the time, I was working at, I don't remember the call center. I think it was PRC. That was popping back then when I was 20, the little call center called PRC. Okay. And I would come into the call center with, black eyes or a bust lip, and I would kind of hold my mouth, But they knew, but I don't think anyone was probably bold enough to say, is she, not to me, but they probably would say, I think she getting beat up, you know. But they wouldn't say it to me, of course. My close friend knew. Mm-hmm. But, it was like, girl, just leave. But it's easier said than done.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, when was it, that you actually built up the strength to leave? Was that you finally had enough, or was it someone kept telling you, your close friend, just leave?
No, actually he got arrested. Oh. The abuser got arrested, and we actually got put out where we was living. So when he got arrested, it was an opportunity for me to kind of get away, physically, but not mentally. I was still there. Yeah. So even when I was in the domestic violence relationship and I wasn't living in the home and he was arrested, he would still call my cell phone and things like that. So I was still mentally trapped into the relationship.
Yeah.
Which eventually led me to continue the relationship. I even, that's why I say wisdom is so important. I even went to the, what do you call it, the state attorney's office and told them to let him go.
Oh, no.
So, yeah. So
do you think if, like, he would have never gotten arrested and all of that, you would still be in that situation?
Because even when he got out, like I said, I was still going down to the state attorney's office and telling them, okay, you know, listen, you know, I really didn't mean it, you know. I didn't say it in those exact words, but I really didn't mean it. We was just arguing and, you know, can you, you know, let him go and stuff like that, or don't press the charges, and I wouldn't show up for the depositions and things like that. So eventually he got out, they dropped the charges, and we got back into the relationship, but we just wasn't living in the same home. Mm-hmm. And of course, usually when someone is abusing you, they are, number one, liars, and then they're cheaters. Mm-hmm. So eventually it just kind of fizzled because he was, you know, in another relationship. And again, I wasn't in the home anymore.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow. Well, I'm so glad that you actually got through that and you left that alone.
Yes.
I'm glad. Now, how long have you been doing Pearls of Wisdom, though?
I started Pearls of Wisdom in 2014. Like I said, I've had the vision since 2010. Okay. I just didn't know how to start it, what to do, who to talk to. But again, I partner with Safe Space, and they give me a lot of insight on what to do when you're starting your 501c. Okay. I have a good bond with the women there who come through the Safe Space shelter. And I actually did a woman expo in 2014. It was like a soft opening for Pearls of Wisdom. And it was very informative to a lot of women. Again, Pearls of Wisdom is not a very attractive organization where to the point you can broadcast it all over the world, because you have to be innovative when you do the approach to Pearls of Wisdom, because some people are still with their abuser. Yeah. And some people just don't want other people to know that they're getting beat up.
It's a lot of fear.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, so how do the women respond who actually, like, say, okay, I'm going to join Pearls of Wisdom, and, you know, they have been in that situation? How do they respond to it?
Well, it's kind of, like I say, an innovative way, because it'll be more empowering. I'll front it with the empowering part. Okay. A lot of the women in the shelter, they're not motivated at all. They're depressed. Mm-hmm. They're very depressed. They have other things on their mind besides having someone come and try to encourage them. So you meet them where they are, and where they usually are, or where they are, they want to hear, who are you? What have you been through? You can't relate to me. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times that's how I do the approach. And they're like, oh, really? You used to live here? And I'm like, yeah, I showed them the room 13. I used to have the top bunk, you know. And that's when they kind of more so be a little bit open to what I have to say. And when I tell them, they're like, oh, okay, now what can you do for me? People always want to know, what can you do for me? Yeah. So, again, I tell them that I'm here to empower them. I'm here to give them some assistance in whatever they need, and let them know that I've been there where you are. And if God did it for me, he can do it for you as well.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, how do people, like, do they come to the Safe Space shelter to join or get involved with Pearls of Wisdom? Because I know those are women that are actually already there at the shelter. Right. So what about women who are just like, you know, on wherever they are at their house or whatever, and they're going through that situation? How do they get in contact with you to join Pearls of Wisdom?
Oh, okay. Pearls of Wisdom has a email address. It's pow.pow14@yahoo.com. And I'm also on Facebook. Facebook is pow.pow07. Facebook, and there's a lot of encouraging quotes on there. It always tell you what POW's doing, where POW will be. Okay. Again, we did the Women Expo in 2014, and we did a feeding that was in October. And so that's a way to build rapport. Whenever you're doing something for someone, then you can kind of chime in who you are and what you're about. Yeah. You know, so because everyone wants to know, you know, what are you going to do for me? So, yeah. And feeding someone, that's the best way to kind of, you know, have them open up to you.
So do you have any upcoming events? Anything coming up?
We do. We actually, again, we partner with Safe Space, Domestic Violence Shelter, and we're having a toy drive.
Okay.
So if anyone wants to bring an unwrapped toy to Safe Space Shelter, they can always Google the address. I can't give out the address because it is confidential, but you can bring a unwrapped toy.
Okay. Wow. And when is that?
It's currently now up until the 24th of December.
Okay, perfect. Now, do you have any other social media that you would like to give the people? That way they can get in contact with you and
just my Facebook. That's basically it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I just like to thank you for coming out to the Ms.Dria show, Demi. It was a pleasure having you and just hearing your story, because whether you know it or not, you just empowered some women watching you. Hopefully some men, not to, put their women through that situation, but you just empowered people. And maybe if someone is going through that situation, they will, speak up and stand out.
Absolutely.
So I'd like to thank you, and I'd like to welcome you back anytime.
Thank you, Dria.
Thank you. We're going to take a break, and we're going to come back with more of the Ms.Dria show. Stay tuned.